latest war extra. Read all about it. Extra paper.
Have you seen the latest edition? I suppose you have. I suppose you feel pretty much as I do about it. Awful, isn't it? The headlines, I mean. Death, destruction, upheaval, unrest. It makes you wonder what the world's coming to. Yes, sir. What's the world coming to? Men's souls wrestle with the thought of tomorrow. And today is the eve of tomorrow. Can I face it with confidence? I suppose you've asked yourselves that question too. Can I face tomorrow with confidence? No man can tell what tomorrow may bring. But I'm not worrying. You know why? Well, a long time ago, almost 40 years it is now, I hired a man to do my worrying for me.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Makes you want to go off someplace
And bury your head like an ostrich.
This is no laughing matter, Jim. All those headlines. I don't know what to think. I'm worried, I tell you.
You've been worried about something as long as I've known you.
But this is different.
Yes, and each new worry has always been different. Why, you worried about the lean years of the Depression. You worried about the big years of the 20s.
But all I know is that this is different. Jim, we'll never survive this war.
That's what you said back in 1917. But we did survive, didn't we, Ellie?
But I'm talking about now. Now, all I can see is chaos and confusion and panic.
Oh, that's a good old word. Well, there was a panic. Oh, years and years ago. That's before you came with us, Ellie.
That was before you could afford a secretary.
You know, Larry here was all against my hiring you.
I've suspected as much these 30 years.
Yeah, he didn't think you'd stay 3 months.
He didn't think you'd be in business 3 months.
This is no time to go digging around in the past for laughs.
I'm not digging around for laughs, Larry. I'm digging for confidence to face the future.
Future.
When I think of the future, I think of this business of mine. A long time ago, I hitched my wagon to a star. There was a drink, pure and wholesome, delicious to taste, refreshing. And they trademarked it Coca-Cola. I obtained the right to bottle Coca-Cola. I became a bottler of Coca-Cola. I still am. We've just put up a new plant here in my town. A new plant right up on Main Street. And people going by can see how clean and careful we bottle their favorite drink. Sometimes they stop in for a closer look at how we do things. This business of mine is a community affair. My bottling operation, well, it isn't the biggest in the country, but then it isn't the smallest. As bottlers go, I'm just somewhere in between, I guess. My business is kind of like my town. A town still small enough to protest turning the park into a parking lot. A town still small enough to respect the old trees along Main Street. One of those places too small to be a city and too big to be a village. Just a town. Just somewhere in that nice middle ground. That's me and my business, too. When I think of the future, I think of the men and machines and friends and ideas and philosophy and spirit that have brought Coca-Cola where it is today. Today seems a clutter of confusion. But maybe if we back away from it, step by step, and see from whence we came, it'll help us to see where we're going. All our yesterdays met the trials of the times. And our last big trial was called the Depression. Now, if you go back a couple of years, you'll find us going over the plans for this new plant. Larry and Ellie and Ben. Ben is our sales manager.
And this space here is going to be the meeting room, where our salesmen get together for conference.
Show me where my office is going to be.
Well, let's see now.
It was our new home, you see. Our new home. A business is like a family, if you know what I mean. And we were all happy and excited going over those plans. That is, we all were except Larry.
Mr. Larrabee, here's where our new office is going to be. Look.
I don't want to look. I don't want any part of this. Do you realize this country has just witnessed the greatest crash and the greatest depression?
We haven't done so bad.
We have been lucky, that's all.
It was something more than luck, Larry.
Well, whatever it was, we're going to risk that and everything else building this new plant.
But we need this new plant.
I don't see why. We've come a long way down here on Pine Street.
And we'll come a lot further up on Main Street.
But right now is hardly the time to go sinking a lot of money in...
Right now isn't what we're building for. It's the future.
The future. You talk just like Jim Westlake. All he thinks about is tomorrow. Always tomorrow.
That's right. And it was that kind of thinking, as much as your lady luck, that helped us lick the Depression.
Well, I don't see it.
It's quite simple. When you think of tomorrow, you think of getting more and more people to drink Coca-Cola. That's our job. Well, you bear down, you press, you push, you put out effort, and you get results. That's how we licked the Depression, Larry. And we licked it so well that now we've got to build this new plant to take care of the more and more, and still more, that's tomorrow.
That's our sales manager. And he's absolutely right about how we licked the Depression. I remember once during those years, I walked into a place of business and...
Oh, good morning, Mr. Westlake.
Got an order blank there?
Why, sure.
I want to buy 4 new trucks.
What?
I haven't got any old ones to turn in either. Now, the reason I went out and bought those 4 trucks was...
I suppose you think I'm hipped on this idea of calling so often on the dealers.
Go on, Ben. Speak your piece.
All right. Our job is to sell more Coca-Cola. Always more and more. Where do we sell Coca-Cola? In these spots, Jim. These spots marked on the map. These are dealer stores, places where people spend their nickels for Coca-Cola.
So what?
So, if we're going to get more people to spend more nickels at these spots, our salesmen have got to spend more time there. They've got to have the time to do a complete merchandising job. That means more men and more trucks.
Larry, why didn't you say so in the first place? Oh, Larry, I've never been afraid to put out, have I?
Did you call me, Jim?
Get ready to put some more men on the payroll.
More men?
I'm going out and buy 4 new trucks.
But, Jim, there's a depression.
So there is a depression, so you run along and worry about it. Ben and I'll knock the pants off it.
Hi there, fellas.
Hiya, Sam.
Found a job yet?
Not yet.
Well, times is tough, all right.
Yeah, I'll say.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola. He'll pay for 'em.
None of that now. I'll match it.
Lady Luck. Larry's always talking about it. Well, in one respect, we were lucky in the way we rode out of the Depression. Our Lady Luck was Coca-Cola. A bottle of Coca-Cola is just a little thing. It costs just a little, yet it's truly one of the pleasant things of life. People enjoy stopping at the bright red coolers for an ice-cold bottle of Coca-Cola. Time out for refreshment, enjoyment, sociability. The pause that refreshes, we say. And the price, 5 cents, puts it within the reach of everybody. An awful lot of nickels rolled in during those Depression years. Maybe it's because people had more nickels to spend those years than anything else.
Sam.
Hello there, Steve.
Well, how's the new cooler working out?
Oh, fine, fine. Things a regular ad sitting out there.
I'll say it is. You're going to need an extra case.
Well, I don't know, Steve.
Well, of course, I'll be back on Thursday, but we'd better play it safe.
Okay, Steve. You're the doctor.
Okay.
So long, Sam. So long. Come back, see us. You bet.
Hey, how's your dad these days?
Oh, all right, I guess. Only trouble is he won't stay retired.
Still comes down to the store, does he?
Yeah. In and out 2 or 3 times every day. It's awfully hard for him to learn to take it easy.
Yeah.
Especially after he's been on the old harness so many years.
The future of Coca-Cola, the getting of more and more people to drink Coca-Cola, is in the dealer's hands. We sink or swim, slump or succeed by the way he feels about Coca-Cola, because he holds forth free spokesman at the places where people spend their nickels. We must thank our dealers, folks like Sam, for helping us through the Depression. And we must thank our salesmen, boys like Steve, who did a merchandising job out on the routes. Merchandising, that's a pretty highfalutin word. But in plain, everyday English, it means helping the dealers sell what you sell them. Helping the dealers. That's what Ben wanted to give the boys on the routes more time to do. It was giving the boys time to put out effort at the places where effort counts most that helped us lick the Depression.
Now you sit right down here. And don't you touch anything.
All right, Mama.
Hello, Mary. Why, what's the matter?
Nothing. I'm just sitting here waiting for my mother.
How about a bottle of Coca-Cola?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Tompkins.
Hello, Dad.
Well, I thought you'd retired, Mr. Tompkins.
I'm trying to. It's pretty hard, you know. I've spent most of the years of my life in this store here.
The real reason you can't retire is you don't think I can run the business.
Of course I think you can run it. Why shouldn't I? Didn't I train you?
Didn't I train you? You know, that's just the way I feel about my boys. I feel if they can go out on the routes and do a good job, well, it's because I showed them the ropes. Of course, I know this isn't true. Not literally. Ben Hawley is the sales side of my business. He handles the training. But I trained Ben. And I signed up for the films and records that have been so important a part of our training program. I remember the day our first meeting came.
You don't expect the boys to sit around and look at a lot of pictures, do you?
This program is more than just a lot of pictures, Larry. It's a training program. Why, if we expect the men to go out and do a better job on the routes, we've got to show them how to do a better job. We've got to help our salesmen to help our dealers. One trained man, one salesman, is worth more than 10 delivery men. And the answer to this depression is men, M-E-N.
Is that what they told you in Atlanta?
No, that isn't what they told me in Atlanta. Larry was mad at Atlanta all that year. You see, that year, the bottlers of Coca-Cola had a convention there.
You know, with the banks closing and all, I wasn't so sure we'd have this convention.
We'll lick this depression. Sure we will.
Bank holiday or no bank holiday?
What do you think of this new advertising campaign, Jim?
No, it's something, I'll tell you.
We're putting out more advertising than ever before. This year. Now.
Now's the time to put out. The hill ahead looks steep. Looks like it'll be hard going to make the grade. But I'll tell you this. If we get a bigger motor, we'll climb that old hill in high. You've got to give to get. You've got to put out. Not just money, that's easy, especially when you've got it, but you've got to put out in time and effort and friendliness, too. Helpfulness. That's the way we'll lick this depression.
Read all about the bank holiday proclamation. Extra. Get your late paper. Read all about it. Read all about the bank holiday.
Dear,
Extra.
oh, dear, I
Get your
don't
late
know what the
paper.
world's
Extra.
coming to.
Just a minute, folks. Oh, here's Mr. Peyton.
When does the bank open?
When do we get our money? I'm sorry. All I know is we got an order to close the bank. Why, I don't know any more than just what you can read in the papers.
Extra. Bank holiday. Extra. Read all about it. Extra. Get your late paper.
Headlines. Blaring, scaring headlines. We faced them in the past. Yes, we faced them in the past. Big deals in my time, but this is the biggest I've ever run into.
Hurry up, honey, we'll be late for the dance.
I saw you duck out on the party, Jim. I just came up here to listen to our radio program. We've come a long way in our advertising. You've come a long way in your business. Why, I remember the time when you used to run around with a horse and wagon selling Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that past. I always do when I want to get a line on the future.
I hope you've been thinking about that little proposition we talked about the other day.
You know, life's funny, Pate. When I was poor and running around with that horse and wagon, I had to come to you begging for a loan. Now I'm running around a golf course. You're running after me.
Well, I'm sorry about that loan, Jim. But things are different now. These are big years. You ought to spread out, put some money in some other things. Take advantage of your opportunity.
Up to now, my opportunity has been with Coca-Cola. I figure it still is. I figure that's the place for me to spread out. Look, Pate, in the old days, you were a pioneer, I know. You were young and you were filled with courage, daring, alertness, going and doing. But those days are over, Jim. Now you're a big man. Now you're a success. Now I should grow old with prominence and prosperity?
No, Jim.
Now lethargy should set in? Now the beam should broaden? Now barnacles accumulate?
No, Jim, no.
That's just what I figure. Why, every man is a pioneer in his youth. It's natural. Well, I want to be one in my middle age. I want to be one until they carry me off someplace and plant sod on top of me. Why does everybody think that pioneering is the monopoly of youth and yesterday? Why, I'm 10 times the pioneer I was 20 years ago. I'm 10 times the man. My business has grown, and I've grown with it. And I want to keep on growing. These are big years, Pate. But I hope they're not too big for me.
I'm out for Coca-Cola.
Boy, oh boy.
What a wonderful idea, Helen, to serve Coca-Cola at home.
They're selling it in cartons now.
Cartons?
Yes, 6 bottles in a little pasteboard container.
We buy 2 or 3 of them every week.
Business was good in the 20s. More and more people came to enjoy the pause that refreshes. Business was good, and we aim to keep it good.
Well, eh?
Yes, Mr. Westlake?
Has Ben come in yet?
Yes, he's checking in his cash.
Ask him to stop in and see me, will you, please?
Yes, sir.
You wanted to see me?
Come in, come in. Sit down, Ben. How long have you been working for me?
Oh, almost 7 years.
You like your job?
Yes, sir.
That's too bad. You're through with that job, Ben. You're through driving a truck. You're fired.
But just a minute,
Here's
Mr.
the daily
Westlake.
sales report.
Don't give it to me.
Don't get... Well, Jim, the daily sales report.
Give it to our new sales manager.
New sales manager?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Ben's through driving a truck. From now on, he's going to head up the sales side of this business.
Well, what are you going to do, Jim? Retire?
Oh, no, Larry. It's just that I've been leaning pretty heavily towards production these past few years. Now I've got a man to supplement me on sales.
But if Ben isn't going to be driving the truck anymore, we'll have to...
Hire a new man to take his place.
But that means extra salary.
Don't you worry about the extra salary. I'll take care of that in extra sales.
Oh, dear. I can see right now you're going to be worse than Jim Westlake.
He means you're going to be better than Jim Westlake.
Thank you, Jim. But I'll have to go a long way to do that.
Go on now, beat it. It's hard to grow up and share your job, especially when you've started out as the whole shebang. It's hard to realize there aren't arms and legs enough on one man to manage a continued growth.
Mom! Oh, Mom, I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
No, Sonny. No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Sonny?
I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
But it wouldn't be cold here. You know it won't taste good if it isn't cold.
We always serve it cold, Mrs. Parker.
Oh, I know your sign says that. But you can't believe advertising.
You can believe that advertising, Mrs. Parker. We've got this contraption here to back it up.
What is it, a washing machine?
No, ma'am, no. That's a cooler for Coca-Cola.
A cooler for Coca-Cola?
Yes, ma'am. Just feel how cold that bottle is.
Well, I declare.
I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Of course you do, and I want one, too.
Dad, I think I'm getting something.
Is Sam still fooling with that wireless set?
Yes, he ain't worth his salt for helping out in the store these days.
Do you think that invention will ever amount to anything?
Well, you never can tell. Boy just in here said he got New York last night.
New York City?
That's what he said.
Well, I don't believe it. Why, you can hardly hear New York City on the telephone.
Hello, Mr. Tompkins.
Hello, boys.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola.
Sam, there's customers out here.
Oh.
Hi there, fellas.
Howdy.
Hi.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola coming up.
Are they cold?
Ice cold. That's the way we always serve them.
Ice cold. That's the way folks like Coca-Cola. That's the way we advertised Coca-Cola would be served to folks. Our advertising made customers for Coca-Cola a promise, and the cooler made sure we kept that promise. The cooler was the answer to an obligation to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola. Those were big years. And we, who hitched our wagons to Coca-Cola, tried to foresee and direct a continued growth to yet bigger years. We built a heritage for the future by meeting our obligations to the years at hand. Now, there's a lot that meets the eye in this business of Coca-Cola, but when you boil it all down, it's just two things. One, getting a good product. Two, getting people to drink that product. One has to do with production, the other with merchandising. In those years, the bottlers of Coca-Cola were hipped on production.
Well, if you ever get out to my part of the country, I want you to stop in and see a real plant. Why, I've got the neatest operation.
Yeah, we know,
Plant inspector said so.
Well, I know how you feel. I'm mighty proud of my new layout.
Everything's just about perfect. Gas pressure, syrup throw.
How about your new soaker?
Fine, fine. Why, those bottles come out shining. Just like everything else around the place.
All this talk about plants and equipment was really talk about standards. In those years, the bottlers of Coca-Cola did some headwork on bottling standards. And some other men of Coca-Cola did some headwork on manufacturing standards. In those years, each one of our manufacturing plants established a modernly equipped laboratory. Graduate food chemists were employed to analyze each ingredient that goes into the making of Coca-Cola. Each ingredient. And each finished batch of syrup had to measure up to certain set standards before it was shipped to any bottler of Coca-Cola. Bottling standards, manufacturing standards. Don't they all add up as answers to obligations? Obligations to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola? Of course they do. In our advertising, we promised a drink that was healthful, palatable, and uniform. And inside our plants and laboratories, we did the kind of work that backed up that promise. Those were the big years. And with them, we grew big. But we realized that bigness is also a responsibility. We realized that bigness is only justified by better performance. It's just head work and horse sense that tells you to meet your obligations to the years at hand. Meet your obligations. Keep your promises. Put feet on your dreams. That's the way to assure continued growth. That's the way to build a business. And for such a business, there's always heritage. There's always future. And there's always tomorrow. That was true back there in the 20s. And if you're thinking, like I'm thinking, you're thinking it's just as true today. Today? Oh, yes, I'd almost forgotten about those headlines. Extra, extra, worry all about it. I'd almost forgotten those big years known as the 20s didn't start out so big. Those 20s started out with the Depression, too. Only we didn't call it a depression in those years.
Things just aren't normal now. But we'll get back all right. We'll get back to normalcy.
Say, aren't you Jed Hawley's boy?
That's right. I'm Ben Hawley.
Well, you look mighty down in the mouth. What's wrong?
When you see an ex-soldier sitting on a park bench, what's usually wrong?
No job?
No job.
Well, buck up. You'll find something.
Keep smiling. Just keep smiling.
Yeah, keep smiling. I know.
It was right after the war, remember? Right after the war. The boys came back from somewhere in France, and I remember the parade in our town, the Victory Parade. The plant was on Juniper Street then, and...
Bill, unless you can see it better, come in here. You can see it better. Ellie, watch the parade. Come on, Larry, it's a parade. Oh, they're coming down Juniper. Come on. Yeah, here they come. Come on, Larry. Oh, girl. Is it all right if I tear up the telephone book?
No, it isn't all right if you tear up the telephone book.
They tore him up in New York City. I saw it in the movies.
This isn't New York City.
There's Harry.
There's George. Hey, George! 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 Hey! Hey! Attaboy!
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
The boys didn't all come back. Some of the boys were still somewhere in France. Ellie's young man was with them in that somewhere. Ellie's young man was an honor roll name on the wall in our plant. A business is like a family, if you know what I mean.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
What are you worrying about now, Larry?
Do you know the United States is at war? Do you realize the government is rationing sugar?
I did see something about it in the headlines.
Those headlines. Those headlines. I don't know what the world's coming to.
Are you worrying about the world or just the sugar shortage?
Both. We'll never survive this war. Coca-Cola, the country, or any of us.
Hiya, Joe.
Hello, Sam. What's on your mind?
All these soldiers in town, they've cleaned up my dad out of Coca-Cola.
Okay, Sam, I'll send over a couple of cases.
Have you seen Grover?
Uh-huh.
Gosh, it's a swell uniform he's got. Wished I had a uniform like Grover's. Where's Miss Ellie?
Mr. Westlake gave her the day off.
I bet I know why. You want to know something? Miss Ellie's mighty sweet on Grover.
Run along, Sammy, please. Don't you see I'm busy?
Bye.
Grover, darling, I'm frightened.
Now, Ellie. Remember you said you weren't going
Yes,
to...
I know. I said I wouldn't cry, and I'm not crying. It's just... Oh, darling, I love you so very much.
Don't you worry. Why, it'll all be over soon. I'll be back. Back driving that old truck for Jim Westlake. And you'll quit that job in the office. We'll get married, have a home, and...
The long trail that leads back through the years isn't always a comfortable journey. Those war years were dark years. But we had faith in the future, faith that we would come through, faith that if this country didn't remain a country, didn't survive, then no country on earth would survive. Faith. No battle is won without it.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola.
Yeah?
Make sure it's Coca-Cola. All them bottles look pretty much alike.
Not now, they don't.
Is that Coca-Cola?
Yes, sir. And that's the brand new bottle for Coca-Cola. The hobble-skirt bottle. They patterned it after the hobble-skirt Betty wears.
The hobble-skirt bottle. Pretty nifty, huh?
I'll take the hobble-skirt.
I'll take Betty.
Thank you, boys.
Hiya, fellas. Hey, what are you all dressed up for?
We're rowing up the river on a picnic.
Picnic, eh? You taking along some bottles of Coca-Cola?
We're doing the rowing.
The girls are going to bring the victuals.
Oh, but no picnic's complete unless you bring along some hobble-skirt bottles.
There's no way to keep Coca-Cola cold on a picnic.
Easiest thing in the world. You're rowing a boat, huh? Well, just loop some knots in the rope to some bottles of Coca-Cola and trail them along in the water. That'll keep them cold.
We'll talk it over with the girls.
Hiya, Mr. Tompkins.
Same.
How much Coca-Cola are you bringing in here?
24 bottles.
24 bottles?
Why, you need 'em, Mr. Tompkins. Well, you've only got 4 or 5 left.
Grover, do you know what date this is?
Yes, sir. Saturday, September the 1st.
Yeah, and Monday's Labor Day. Why, if I took them 24 bottles, I'd have 'em sitting around till spring. I've been handling Coca-Cola for Jim Westlake ever since he went in business.
I remember. I was in grammar school then.
Well, then you remember I never sold any Coca-Cola after cold weather sets in.
Yes. And I remember wishing you did.
Why?
Well, because I got thirsty in cold weather just the same as I did in hot weather. When I got thirsty, I thought of Coca-Cola.
Grover, you're trying to sell me something.
Well, that's right, Mr. Tompkins. I am. But I feel it's to your advantage to be sold. The reason you haven't sold Coca-Cola after the cold weather sets in is because you've stopped featuring Coca-Cola. Now, if you kept this tub out here after Labor Day, you'd find folks would keep right on buying after Labor Day.
A few weeks, maybe.
All winter long.
Now, listen, Grover. Listen to reason. I can't keep that tub out here all winter. Where to put my stove?
Well, you can move the tub over a little. And when these birds come in and sit around the stove, well, they can just reach right over and have themselves a bottle of Coca-Cola. You know, folks can get mighty thirsty just sitting around a fire. If you've got something that answers that thirst, well, that means more money in your cash drawer.
Do you expect me to buy ice for this tub all winter?
No, you can just chop some away from the front door.
Okay. Okay, you're the doctor. But only till Thanksgiving. I don't believe there's a man living that'll drink Coca-Cola after Thanksgiving.
The pioneers in this business had battles aplenty. And one of the biggest battles was the Battle of Labor Day. The battle to make this business a year-round business. You may think Grover there was slightly high pressure in his merchandising methods. I don't look at it that way. To me, it was faith shining through that boy. He believed in the rightness and goodness of Coca-Cola. That faith was so much a part of that pioneer, he couldn't help talking it morning, noon, and night.
Well, so you've come back for Coca-Cola to take on that picnic.
Well, not exactly.
The girls are bringing the fiddles, and you're bringing the Coca-Cola. Fine.
Coca-Cola? Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
I don't know.
Come on, be a sport. Put your hand in your pocket.
All right.
What's going on out here?
I just sold some bottles of Coca-Cola for you.
Well, now.
And by the way, folks, anytime this winter you get to feeling thirsty, you can stop right in here at Mr. Tompkins and enjoy this delicious and refreshing drink.
I'll never forget the day Grover came to work for me. It was the day I went out to buy that truck.
Well, Mr. Westlake, got the order all made out. All you have to do is sign.
You seem pretty sure that I'm going to buy this truck.
That's right.
What makes you so sure?
Because you're a man who believes in the future, Mr. Westlake.
Tomorrow, huh?
Yes, sir. Always tomorrow.
An awful lot of nickels would have to change hands before I could pay for this truck. Maybe I'd better wait a spell.
Waiting won't make the nickels change hands. This truck will do that, because this truck is a means of getting oftener to the places where the nickels are spent. The oftener you get to your dealers, the more you can talk to them about selling more Coca-Cola. Now, you want to sell more Coca-Cola, don't you?
Why, sure.
You want your flow of nickels to get bigger and bigger all the time, don't you?
Sure, sure.
Very well, then. Sign here.
You know, there's just one thing you overlooked. I don't know how to drive a truck.
Why, there's nothing to it. I'll show you how.
I don't know. It looks mighty complicated.
Why, there's nothing to it.
How would you like to drive it for me?
What do you mean?
I'm offering you a job.
What?
You said this truck would sell more Coca-Cola.
That's right, it will.
No, the man in the truck will do the selling. You believe the things you just said, don't you?
Of course I believe him.
All right, then. You're hired. Morning, Larry. What are you worrying about this morning?
You know perfectly well what I'm worrying about. Bills.
Why don't you pay them?
Why don't I? You know just as well as I do that we haven't enough money to...
All right. Just sort out those we can't pay, and after a while I'll get off some letters to them.
Oh, why did we have to move up here on Juniper Street? Why did you have to invest in all that machinery? How long do you expect to stay in business if you don't meet your obligations?
Well, not very long. That's why I bought that new machinery.
Talk sense, Jim. Please talk sense.
All right. I moved up here on Juniper Street. I bought that new machinery. Because if I want to stay in business, I've got to meet my obligations to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola. I've got to see to it that Coca-Cola is bottled according to fixed standards.
Hey, boss, there's someone out here asking for you.
Another bill collector.
No, this here's a lady.
That must be Miss Smith, Joe. Show her in, will you?
All right.
Who's Miss Smith?
My new secretary.
Your new... Jim Westlake, have you gone out of your...
But, Larry, all bottlers have secretaries now. When I was in the convention in Atlanta, we...
Atlanta. So, that's where you got your idea.
Good morning, Miss Smith.
Good morning.
Oh, this is Mr. Larrabee.
Good morning, Mr. Larrabee.
Good morning.
For the present, Miss Smith, you can sit right here at my desk. I won't have much use for it for the next 3 months. After a while, maybe we'll get one of those special typewriter desks.
Don't count on that too heavily, Miss Smith. We may not be in business after another 3 months.
May I take your hat? You won't have to worry about anything around here, Miss Smith. Mr. Larrabee does that for all of us.
I think I'm going to like this job. If you like, I'll dust off your desk.
Miss Smith.
Yes, Mr. Larrabee?
I may as well tell you right off. I do not approve of women working in an office.
But why, Mr. Larrabee?
I think a woman's place is in the home, and I'm thankful you won't be with us very long.
You mean you don't think Mr. Westlake will be in business?
I mean, I'm perfectly aware of why young women take jobs in offices.
Why is it?
It's the modern method of getting a man.
Well, what makes you think I'll, get a man, as you call it?
Because you're so pretty.
Say, did you hear the story about the panic?
Which one?
The one about why is a panic like a picnic?
Heck yes. They told that one back in 1893.
This panic of 1907 isn't going to be any picnic.
Don't you think maybe folks have always said that? When times weren't normal, when things were kind of depressed?
Maybe so, maybe so.
It seems to me that if we bear down, press, push, put out effort, we can lick any trial that comes along.
Say, what do you think of this new advertising campaign?
Oh, it's something, I'll tell you.
Especially these oilcloth signs.
Put out enough of them, and we'll ride out of this panic all right.
Why, we'll be putting on extra wagons.
Putting on extra men.
Hiring private secretaries.
Yesterdays. Cheerful, glorious yesterdays. It was something more than luck that brought us up through the years, though Lady Luck had a lot to do with it. The goodness and rightness of Coca-Cola was there from the start. It was truly delicious and refreshing. People from all walks of life, on any old street, whoever they were, whatever they did, wherever they might be, people liked Coca-Cola. It's the single thing I know of that people can taste again and again, and more, and never grow tired of. Coca-Cola is a repeater, so much a repeater that when the trademark was questioned, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld Coca-Cola as a single thing from a single source and well known to the community. We were lucky. But if luck hitched our wagons to this star, faith kept them hitched. I was just coming in to see you. I hope you've been thinking about that little proposition we talked about the other day.
You mean the loan?
Yes, did you fix it up for me all right?
Well, you see, Jim, this country is going through a kind of a panic now.
I'll be good for it. I've got my business and...
It's a one-horse business.
It won't always be one horse, Mr. Peyton. Someday it'll be right up here on Main Street.
Well, I hope you're right. But I'm afraid I can't risk the bank's money on dreams.
Dreams?
Yes. You're a dreamer, Jim. You're always thinking about tomorrow. Always tomorrow. And, well, you come back on some future tomorrow, and then maybe...
On some future tomorrow, you'll be coming to me, Mr. Peyton. You'll come to me asking for something or other.
In that case, I'll apologize to you, Jim. I'll say, I'm sorry I didn't give you this loan. Good luck, Jim.
Faith, that inward something that makes a risk a sound investment. In the early years of this business, the bottlers of Coca-Cola risked aplenty. It wasn't much they risked when you add it all up and measure it by today. But in those yesterdays, it was everything. The pioneers in this business risked their all.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
What's the matter, Larry?
I don't know why I ever started working for you.
Because this is a great business. Why, someday you...
Someday. Don't start singing that tune, Jim Wesley.
Oh, there's a great future in this business, Larry.
I'm not thinking of the future. I'm thinking of today, now. Now, all I can see is...
What we've got?
Yes, what we have got. Second-hand equipment, bottles that break every time...
That's the difference between you and me, Larry. You know, life is like a piece of chicken wire. Two men are looking at it. One sees only the wire. The other sees the holes between the wire. That's you and me. You see what we have got, and I see what we haven't got. You see the present, and I try to see the future. Oh, we'll go a long ways together, Larry, you and I, for we're like two legs of a compass. You're the firm leg, and I'm the leg that spreads out, reaching always for more and more and still more. That's the story of this business. And I hope that the more and more and more that was yesterday will help us to see the more and more and still more that is tomorrow. Always tomorrow.